Hey, I'm Amanda and I like to read and write. Today's video is all about the books that I've read over the last few weeks. If you didn't see my intro video, I decided to do these book reviews a little differently than I see on a lot of YouTube channels. My plan was to film the review as soon as I finished reading the book instead of waiting and bringing everything here when I'm doing this and then be like, here's this book and this book and this book. And I thought maybe I wouldn't remember everything that I wanted to say about the books if I waited that long. So I talk about them as soon as I finish reading them. Get ready for some weird hair, some tired eyes, and some really good books. So I said that every time I finished a book, I would just come on here and tell you about it. So I'm gonna scoot over. I'm sorry about that light up there. I'll put the book right here. It is called Never Have I Ever by Lauren Blakely, and it's part of a series. I read the first book in the series a while ago. You'll see how I do my TBR list as we go through this. And so the next book in the series will come up, but it's going to come up after I go through all of my authors that I read. And so basically what it means is I have a list of authors that I like to read their books. Either I've read one and I really liked it, or I've just been reading them for so long that I feel like even if the books are not great, I'm really in the series and I want to stay there. So I'm going to keep reading the series, even if it's not something that I even enjoy anymore. I know, I'm a completionist in some ways. There are some books that I will put away and DNF, which means did not finish. So I will do that sometimes, but not always. Anyway, today I just finished reading Never Have I Ever. It's so cute. I listened to it on audiobook, and it has a male and female voice actor, and they both do a really good job. I really liked the way they did all the characters. There are even some kid voices that they had to do, and I thought they did a great job on those voices. It's a really good book. I mean, it's a romance. It's about a wedding planner and a divorce lawyer. And then, things happen. That's it. I mean, it's a romance. It's going to have a happily ever after because it's a romance. Anyway, those are predominantly what I read. They're predominantly what I have read in the past. However, in the last year, I've been taking on a lot more authors and a lot more books that are outside of that genre. So for the most part, while a lot of them will be that we'll be talking about, there will also be other ones thrown in because everybody needs to expand their reading horizons. So check it out. I guess I'm going to give it 4 or 4.5 stars. It was really cute. It was not like laugh out loud funny, but it was just cute and it was sweet, and we didn't have the whole angsty thing that I cannot stand in these books. It had a little bit of depth to it because his wife had died, and so there we go. I didn't give away anything. His wife's dead when the book starts, so anyway, yeah, there we go. Book number 2 coming whenever I finish reading it. I finished 2 more books last night, and I think I'm going to wait and talk about them while I'm walking around the track or after I've already finished walking this morning, just because I can't get my brain to focus yet on what I want to say. But I finished 1 on Kindle and 1 on Audible last night. First of all, I've never been outside where it was wet in the air like that, and I grew up in the South, but it was like water was just hanging in the air, and I was walking in it. Like my hair was wet like it had been raining, but it was not raining. Anyway, that was weird about the books that I read. So I'm going to put them up here above my wedding pictures. Those are from almost 22 years ago. Anyway, the Kindle book that I read is called Master Unchained by Tina Folsom. This is also part of a really long series, and I think that's the only reason that I'm still reading them is because I'm invested in like the overall storyline, but this book was not great. I am too old, I think, to enjoy certain kinds of scenes probably the way they were intended to be enjoyed, and there are just certain words that just make me laugh when they use them to describe body parts, and it takes me out of the story because I literally go, no, she did not just pick that word to say. So I just I don't know. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars just because it's part of a series that I do like the concept of the whole thing. It started out with a group of vampires who run a security firm called Scan Guards. And I used to listen to all of these on audio, by the way. But this particular one wasn't on audio. And I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it the way I have her past books. Okay. And I finished an audiobook last night. It was shorter. I don't know that it's considered a novella. I don't know how many pages it was because, again, it was on audio. But it is also the end of a really long series. I think it might be book 17 or something. Anyway, it was called Long Time Gone by Lorelei James. So I know that Lorelei also writes as Lori Armstrong. And I know that she lives somewhere near Rapid City, South Dakota. The reason I know that is because that's where I used to live before we moved here. And she just posts pictures of that area around there all the time. So anyway, she writes about cowboys, ranchers, who live in Wyoming, just across the South Dakota border in Wyoming. So a lot of places that she would reference in her previous books were in that area. Anyway, this is, I don't know, some people do this where they write about a whole family, like they write about all the brothers in a family, or they write about, you know, something like that, all the kids in a family. And so this is what she did, is she took these 4 brothers and they all had these kids. And so she wrote about each one of their kids. And then she went back and told the story of one of the brothers. And then what this was a story of one of the other brothers. So it's kind of back in time. Like, we have already known them as adults and grown-ups and the parents of the children in the main characters of the books. We've already known them as that. And now we get to see their story. I really liked this one, but again, it was pretty short. It was barely like 4.5 hours or something listening to it on audio. And so I don't know how I have felt about the other books. Like, I want to say, oh, I love them all, but I'm sure that I did not love them all. I do like the fact that you're immersed in one family and you get to know everybody and you know how everybody's related to everybody else. And so I do love that aspect of it. But at the same time, you just kind of lost. And because I don't read the series like one in a row, like I'll read one of hers and then when I circle back around to her name, I'll read another one of hers. So there's a long time in between books. So I'll discuss how I do that, I already said, but in another video, and how I keep up with what I've read. So hopefully this illness, which is like the remnants of a sinus infection, will go away soon. And by the time maybe that I finish the next book, although usually I'll listen on audio. I listen to one book from one of my authors, and then I listen to a new book. And then I go back and forth like that. But because I listen to like a little novella, This Long Time Gone, then I'm doing the same thing again. I'm listening to one book in an anthology. So it probably won't be very long. So maybe later today you'll see me. Today also was supposed to be a hair straightening day, at least. So usually I wear it curly for a couple of days and then I straighten the front parts of it right here and I tuck them back. Well, they don't tuck very well when they're not straight, number one. And number two, did I mention that I was walking through water outside? So I don't know that today is a good day to be trying to straighten this at all. So maybe just one more totally curly day. So I finished the novella that I said I was going to start this morning. I'm here to pick up the kids from an event, and I listened to it on the way here and finished it. And it is in a book of a bunch of novellas, and the book is called On the Hunt, but the particular story that I was reading is called Phantom Embrace, and it's from a series. Well, it's written by Dianne Duvall from the Immortal Guardian series. And I think this is book 5.5. I'll put it up there, put it up here with the picture of the book. Let me give some room. And I'll put the picture of the book there with the with what number it is in the Immortal Guardian. It was good, just like the rest of the series is. I mean, not wonderful where you're like, oh my goodness, this is so good, but also at the same time, I mean, not bad. It's a good series, especially for paranormal romance. Her world that she's created is awesome, and I've really liked every book so far that I've read. Now, if you have read all the books up to this book, you definitely know what's going to happen, because we already know what happened with the male character in this story from the previous story, but we didn't really know what happened to him. I'm not going to spoil it, so that's all I'm going to say. But if you want to check it out, it doesn't spoil anything for... Well, it kind of does spoil, so never mind. If you're going to read it, I would recommend starting with the first book. The first book in one of these series is always not the best book, but I still recommend starting with the first book. Now, since I've read those two novellas, it's now time for me to listen to a new to me author, or a new book, not from somebody that I've read before. So I finished reading a book, and I recorded what I thought about it, and then I loaded it up on the computer, and it's missing. So I'll just jump on here really quickly and tell you about it. So it is The Moonshiner's Son, and I read it with my kids for school. It's about a moonshiner and his son. I'm really sad that I didn't get it the day that I did it. Anyway, it's about a man and his son who live in the mountains of West Virginia, in the hills, and he always made brandy and whiskey. His dad did, and he learned it from his dad and from his granddad, and he wanted to pass it down to his son. Well, then Prohibition happened, and he started having to go out in the middle of his, some of his property in the hills and start making moonshine. And then it became, of course, it was illegal at that point. And so anyway, a lot of stuff happened. A preacher and his family moved in and started preaching against the evils of liquor. And it was told from the point of view of the little boy, who is probably 10-ish. They might say how old he is, but I don't remember. And it's told from his point of view and how he feels about Prohibition, and ultimately how he feels about alcohol, and how his opinion on it evolves as he gets older, and what his dad thinks about it, and how he's passing on things down to his son because his father passed it down to him. And it's just a really good book about a little boy learning who he is and who he wants to be, and what it means to have a legacy, and what it means for newcomers to come into a culture that they don't know a lot about and try to tell them everything that they're doing wrong and how that's not always welcomed. So anyway, it was a really cute book by Carolyn Reeder, and it was a nice little middle grade, maybe even upper elementary book. I think would be perfect for it. Well, it's hard to find good lighting before the sun is even up, but I'm about to go out here and walk around the track, and I wanted to tell you about a book I finished last. It's called Shadows, Seduction, and it is part of Kresley Cole's series, Immortals After Dark. I can post it up right there. It is like book 16 or something, 15 or 16 in the series, and it just furthers the storyline a little bit more. It is the first male romance in this series, and it's also the only one that's not on audio. I always do hers on audio, and so I'm not sure if one of those things has to do with the other. I mean, I would guess not, but then maybe, I don't know. So anyway, it was really good, and a really good story from two people that we already met in previous books. So if you've read her series and for some reason you couldn't find this one, or you haven't read this one, it goes right before Wicked Abyss, which is the last one that she's written so far. And anyway, she has done a really good job of developing her world. I really like the way her world works, the way all the supernaturals work, and she just has some of the best characters ever. but it is a paranormal romance. I thought I would take a second right quick and tell you guys how I know what the next book is that I'm reading, and it's because I have this system right here, and this is currently, these are the ones that are on audio, of course, because it says audio, and then if you scroll down, these are the ones that are on Kindle. And the way I have it set up is I read, this is kind of my master list right here, so I read an audiobook, and then I read a new audiobook, and then I read something from the Plus catalog, and then I read another audio. The ones that just say Audible are from my authors, the ones that I just read, and then I read something from the Plus catalog, and then I read another one of my authors, and then I read a new Audible again, and then I read an NPR book on Audible, which I will explain what the NPR books mean. And it's kind of the same pattern for my master system for Kindle. I do the same thing, Kindle, new Kindle, then something on Kindle Unlimited, then a Kindle, and then a new Kindle. And so it is time, where I am in my list up here, is right now I'm reading this, which is a new author to me. And so the next thing is going to be something in the Plus catalog. And technically this book here that I'm reading right now is in the Plus catalog, but I'm not counting that as my Plus read because it's technically my new author read. But I'm almost finished with it. So I wanted to come on here and look and see what's next. And so I'll show you how I find my read, my next on the Plus catalog. Okay, so what I do is I log into my Audible account, and I don't click on the Plus catalog because I've found that it's harder to find the ones I want from there because I'm trying to find new books in this way. So I go here to browse, and I want to do new releases. So I click on new releases. It's going to give me all the new releases in all of these categories for an Audible in general. And it says there's over 1,000 results, but I can go over here to the side and I can say, click the thing that says Plus catalog. And I want any that's been released sometime in the last month. So I'm gonna say the last 4 weeks. And now we have 19 books. And so you can scroll through here and look at what these 19 books are. And then what I like to do, because they're all free to me because they're part of the Plus catalog, so I like to randomly ask anybody around me or my iPad to pick a number. So I'm gonna ask Siri on here. Pick a number 1 to 19.
It's 15.
Okay, so she said it's 15. So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so it's called Wrapped Up in You by Ella Frank and Brooke Blaine, narrated by Wesley Paul. So I don't know any of these names. It's only 1 hour and 17 minutes. So I'm gonna add that to my library, but then I'm also gonna find another one because that's just not very long. Which is sometimes the problem I run into, which is one reason why I don't like this catalog, which we will discuss later. But so I'm going to ask her for another number. Pick a number 1 to 19.
It's 5.
Okay, so let's see what 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is an Audible original, Brackish Waters by Matt Boren, read by Christina Applegate. It also is an hour and something. So I'm going to add that as well, and I will read those 2 books, and I will just count them as my one section over here that counts in the Plus catalog, and then I will go on to the next audiobook that I have. So I know that I said I wouldn't do any videos in the bed, but I meant like late at night. So it's first thing in the morning. And I finished a long book last night, and then you guys just saw that I picked those 2 like really short books to do next in my audio. And so I finished one of those last night because they were really short. So anyway, I got some room right here where I can put the books. And first, let's talk about A Study in Scarlet Women. So if you've read any Sherlock Holmes books, there's one called A Study in Scarlet. And so this is called A Study in Scarlet Women, and that's exactly what it is. It's a retelling of Sherlock Holmes where Sherlock is a woman. So I don't think that's given away the plot because I figured it out pretty quickly. And then they never really come out. Well, they do come out and say it eventually, but you can figure it out really quickly. And I was kind of confused at the beginning because I was listening to it on audio. I think if you read it, you could sort it out because you get a lot of different people's point of view. It's not just from Sherlock or Charlotte's point of view. And so I think that it was a little confusing at first. Maybe it wouldn't be so much if you were reading a physical copy of it where you could flip back and be like, wait, who was that? I'm sorry, my dog is going crazy. Okay, so anyway, that was called A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas, and it was really good. I really liked it. Then, and it was like 11 or 12 hours long, so it's like a good sized book. Then I read the first one that you guys saw me pick last night randomly, which is called Home to You, Wrapped Up in You. I don't even remember. It was literally an hour. You'll see it right there. It was literally an hour long, and I mean, what can you do in an hour? It was a couple who were already together. They had been together for 3 years, and it was a surprise. One of them surprised the other one with a whole Valentine's Day thing and a proposal at the end. So that was it. I mean, I guess it was sweet, but it wasn't anything. So I'm kind of sad that I used my round for it, but that's okay. We'll move on to the next one. It's really short too, so I don't think I'll still be in the bed when I finish that one because I'm about to get up, but it won't be too long before you see me again. I thought you wanted to play. I feel like this is where I'm going to end up doing a lot of my book reviews, just because this is my office and this is where I sit a lot of times. I just went on a walk though with my dog, and it is hot in Texas, y'all. Oh. Anyway, as I was walking, I finished the other little short Audible Plus book that I was reading, and it's called Brackish Waters. It's written by Matt Boren, I guess. I guess that's how you say his name. It was weird because when it started, it's read by Christina Applegate, and I was expecting it to be like a man or from a man's point of view, and it's not, but it was really good. I mean, it was less than 2 hours long, so definitely a novella, maybe even a long short story, but it just didn't seem like that. And it is written as a review to a resort in Florida that this family went to stay with, and it's written by the mom of the family, and it was just really good. It was really cute. What's weird is it's probably about 30 minutes longer than the other little short book I read, but it seemed so much longer. I mean, it had substance. The characters grew and changed through the book. I really liked it. We were introduced to probably 7 or 8 characters through the whole book, and I knew who they were. I knew how they acted. They just felt like real people. Anyway, it was really cute. So if you have Audible Plus and you just have a couple of hours, put that on. It does have adult language, so be prepared in case you want to listen to it in front of your kids. That's it. And now I'm back on my list. If you remember what it looked like yesterday, I'm at one of my normal authors is next. And so that's what I'm listening to now. Okay, it is just stopped raining and I had to bring the dog out. And I thought I would talk about the last book that I just finished, which I'll put it right here. It's I think it must be called Siren in Waiting by Lexi Blake, but she wrote it originally as Sophie Oak. There are a couple things I need to say about this book. Number one, if you have read, I've never read 50 Shades of Grey, but I'm going to guess that this book probably falls in that same category. It definitely has bondage stuff, and it is part of a bigger series. I started reading this series years ago. Just the Lexi Blake side of the series, which is weird because she has the series with the same characters that interact with each other, but were written by two I mean, they were written by her as two different people. Anyway, so now they're being re-released. These Sophie Oak books are being re-released, or they have been re-released as under the name of Lexi Blake, which is what the other series was. Anyway, I got in it because they were spies. And then I realized after I was already in the series that it had the 50 Shades of Grey bondage elements. However, I think I stuck around for the narrator and the overall storyline. Like, the characters are so snarky to each other, and there's so much sarcasm, and it's just really good. Like, the overall storyline is really good about this group of people. They're mercenary kind of people, and I kind of don't so much pay attention to the whole bondage and the sex part. However, when she writes as Sophie Oak, almost all of her stories have what's it called? When you're in a 3-person relationship? Polyamorous? I don't know. Don't let me get on here sounding ridiculous. Anyway, almost all the books, when she's writing as Sophie Oak, end that way, with 3 people in the relationship. A 3-person relationship, that's what I'm going to call it until I know what it's really called. Anyway, this book was not any different than the other Sophie Oak books, but it had one of the characters, one of my favorite characters from the other side, from the mercenary group. So anyway, I think that it is a really good series. However, you just need to know what you're getting into when you go into it. So don't go into it thinking that there's not going to be bondage and there's not going to be some explicit content, because it will be. However, I really like the character interactions, like I said, and the overall storyline of the whole thing, where they're trying to figure out who's selling them out and all that kind of stuff, is awesome. So I just finished another book. There's some weird loud noise happening outside, so I'm sorry. I'm going to go really fast about this. This book was called The Unspoken by Ian K. Smith. I'm pretty sure that I got it from a I was going to say I got it from a Kindle first read, but I didn't read it on my Kindle. So I don't know where I got this from or where the suggestion came from. Sometimes I make a note of where I got a book from, but there's no note beside this one. So anyway, it's about a detective called Ash Kane, and he is a private detective, used to be a police officer, and he gets hired for a missing girl's case, and then a body appears, not the girl, but just adds more stuff to it. And then the subplot, though, I really like it's really good. I don't want to say anything to give it away, but I liked the subplot. I just read a couple of reviews about it after I finished this book, and other people did not like the subplot, and they didn't like the book overall. I liked it. I guess there's nothing else, but I liked it. I don't want to say too much to give too much away. It's a mystery, of course. And there's another book in the series, but it's not out yet. This is the first book, and it came out in 2020. This one did. And the next book, I'm not sure when it's coming out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him over to my list of authors that I read. And then when his name comes around again in the rotation, I will go look up, and hopefully his book will be here then. The second book. He has other books. Apparently he's a doctor, like on a TV show, and so he has some books about, like, nonfiction books about health. So I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, my next book is my NPR book, which happens to be my last audio young adult book, and it's called Clap When You Land. So I'm getting ready to start that on audio soon. The second thing I wanted to say was there will be a video coming out describing, like, how I pick my books, where I get them from, and my whole process and all of that. So I'm not going to take the time during one of these videos to talk about it, but it will be coming up in the future. I'm in the kitchen making my lunch, and I just finished reading Clap When You Land. It's by Elizabeth Acevedo. Let me scoot over. And it was so good. Number one, it is a book in verse, and so I like listening to those, particularly when they're read by the author. This is told from the point of view of two girls, And so the author does one of the girls' voices, and then another lady does the other girl's voice. And I just really like having it read because of the rhythm that they follow and the rhythm that they use, and it just was so good. I also like looking at it because it's written in verse. It doesn't look like a normal novel. And so I rented the Kindle version so that I could just see what it looks like and follow along as they were reading it to me. But anyway, it is, I'm sure that you've probably heard about it, but it's about a plane crash going from the United States to the Dominican Republic. And somebody that was on the plane was leaving his daughter and his wife in the States, in New York, and was going to the Dominican Republic, where he goes every year for 3 months, and he has another daughter there. And so the girls don't know, and so as we kind of see it from their point of view, we find out what happens, and we find out what they think about it, and it's such a good book. So I definitely recommend it. I gave it 5 stars, and that's it. So those are the books that I read. I'm not going to be having dates on here because my plan is to just every couple of weeks have one of these videos about all the books that I've read since the last video, but I did want to give you some stats. So I don't remember exactly what day I started doing these reviews, so I can't tell you like the time frame. However, I do have some stats on the books that I read. I read a total of 12 books, and even the novellas, I count novellas, I count graphic novels, I count books in verse, all of those just count as books in general. I read 2,817 pages in this time period. I read 9 books on audio, 2 books on Kindle, and 1 physical copy of a book. Out of the 12 books, 3 of them were new authors. Well, 4 technically if you want to count the school book. It doesn't really count because I'm not trying to find new authors that way, but so we'll say I read 4 new authors, and 3 of those will be moving over to my old author list. They're not old authors, they're just old to me. So out of the 12 books that I read and just reviewed, my favorite one was Clap When You Land, followed quickly by A Study in Scarlet Women. And my least favorite was Wrapped Up in You, probably because it was too short to develop into anything, but my second least favorite was Master Unchained. And that's all the stats for this time. So thank you for watching. I hope that you found some books that you want to add to your TBR. And if there are some books that you think I would like to read, and I will read any genre at least once. So leave your recommendations below and I'll put them on my list. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye. The Kindle book that I read, I forgot what it's called. Okay, happy reading. No, that's not a thing.
Retelling.